All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. So now we're on our end screen. Okay, so make sure that you have your end screen set up here. Okay, should just be an empty box. All right, we want to extend a control, so make sure that's a control node. And then also make sure that you've attached the script and name it n.gd. So those are the first couple things you want to check for. Okay, the next thing is we're gonna just double check our names here. So you want a center container as the first child. Okay. As a child under that, we want a VBox container. Okay. Once you add your VBox container, rename it panel. Now we're going to add 3 labels as children in our VBox container. Okay. So in our panel. Okay. First label is title label. Second label is time label. Third label is high label. Okay. Now, as another child of the panel, okay, so make sure it's noted to this panel, to this VBox container. We're going to add an HBox container. Okay. So that's the 4th child of this tree. Let's rename this buttons row. Pay attention to the case of everything too. Okay. And then we're going to add 3 buttons here. We're going to add a menu button. We're going to add a restart button. We're going to add a reset button. Okay, so let's go back through that really quickly. So we have our end scene, it's a control node. We added a script, n.gd. Now we have a center container as the first child node for end. Okay, so then we have this panel. We should have 4 child nodes in this panel, and this panel is a VBox container. We need a title label, a time label, and a high score label, which call it high label. Okay, then we have another row, buttons row, which is an HBox container. And we're going to add a menu button, a restart button, and a reset button. So give you a second just to check those. Make sure you have those before moving forward. Okay, now we're going to connect 3 signals to our buttons. So for the first menu button, okay, we'll select that, go over to your far right menu. We want the node selected so that we can see our signals, and we want a button pressed, signal pressed. We're going to hit connect and connect it back to the end screen. So you should see on menu button pressed in your script. The next one is restart button. We're going to do the same thing. Button pressed, connect it to the end scene. So you see on restart button pressed. And the final thing is we're going to connect this reset button and connect that to the end screen. So you should have 3 signals, and they're all connected to the end screen. Okay, and that's our whole setup for our heads-up display. Everything else we'll do inside of the script. All right, so now for the scripting. Let's go ahead and expand our code so we can see everything. So again, that's these 4 arrows. You just need a little more space. Okay, and then we can also get rid of this on the left. So we get the full space. So now, what do we add in our code? So we want 2 export variables. The first one is to set our menu scene path. Okay. So we're going to call that var menu scene path. We're going to set it as a string. Okay. And let's actually open up our file system so we can just drag it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag in our scenes menu.tcsn. So go to your scenes folder and grab the menu file. Okay. And again, these are just initial variables. You can change this in the inspector. Then we're going to add one more export variable. I'm going to call that restart scene path. Assign it a string. And that is going to set us to level 1 initially. Good. All right. Now let's get through our ready function. This is where most of the script will take place. Okay. So the first thing we want to add is we want to show the final time from the game manager. Okay, so we're going to set a variable. We'll call it var final time. Okay, and we're looking for game manager dot elapsed. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add if has node. We've done this before. Okay, we're looking for our center panel time label. So if node has the center panel time label, and then we're going to bring in our time label from the right. So center label, and we want to display the text. So we're just setting up what the text displayed will say. Final time, colon, percent, dot to F. So that's showing the 2 decimal places of the float, and then S for seconds. Okay, so now what we need to do is evaluate and update the score. So the next thing we're going to do is go var is new. We're looking for our game manager. And then we're going to say function try set high score. And we're going to use the final time as the property. So it's looking at the final time and then looking to determine if a new score should be set. So we need another if statement. If has node. Okay, now we're looking for the high label. Scroll down, center container / panel / high label. Okay, add your colon. Now we're going to add a couple more variables. This is the variable for the high label. Colon equals, and then you can just drag in your center container high label. Okay, we're going to make sure that it's as a label. And now let's do another if statement. If is new. High label dot text equals new high score. Exclamation point. Okay, so that's the string. Okay, then we have an else statement. So if it's not, we have to give the game manager a couple conditions. So this is if the high score, this is if on the initial. INF colon, okay, hl.text, so we're just accessing the text again. Best. Hyphen, best, so we're gonna write quotations, best, colon, space, hyphen, quotation. Okay, so that's your string. All right, and then we're gonna do another else statement. hl.text equals best. I'm gonna use quotations again. Best, colon, percent, dot two. Okay, so we want the decimal place. Percent game manager dot high score. Okay, and the last thing is we want to just set this label to be visible. So hl.visible and set that to true. All right, almost finished. The last thing we need to do for the ready function is we need to wire our buttons. So make sure that our buttons are connected. The best way to do this is to we're going to write this statement once, copy it 2 more times, and then edit it. Okay, so what you want to add in here is var menu underscore btn. So we're making variables for each button. Okay, equals our colon equals get underscore node. So we want this get node or null function. Okay, and we're looking for the menu button. So I'm going to select the menu button here. Okay, now we're going to add an if statement. If menu button, so if menu underscore btn, that's the variable, and not. All right, so the menu dot bt, or excuse me, underscore btn dot pressed dot is connected, is underscore connected. Okay, and then we're going to add in the signal. So on menu button pressed, add a colon, and then on the next line, we're going to say menu button dot pressed dot connect on menu button pressed. Okay, so we're just really just making sure our signals are working. And we shouldn't be indented twice here. Make sure that if statement is right underneath the variable. Okay. So let's take this whole statement. We're going to copy that. Twice. Okay. And we're going to get a couple errors because we need to change a few things. So now we're going to change this second one to the rest button. Okay. And instead of the menu button, we're going to use the restart button. Careful of the pre-populations. Okay. And again, we're just swapping out rest and menu. Or rest for restart. Okay, so restart. Okay. And the final thing is we're going to change it for our reset button. So we're going to change this to var reset. Be careful, one is rest, one is reset. Make sure you get your cases right and your spelling. Okay. Reset here. And reset here. And just the reset. Reset and reset. Okay, so now we have all three of our buttons wired here. Okay. And then let's just add a print statement. And debug. Okay, so we're going to say end for our end scene. Final. So we want end in brackets, then a space, then final, then colon, and then quotations. And then we're going to put a comma, space, another string, percent dot to F. So that's for the decimal. Quotation, and then another percent, final time, the variable, comma, space, another string, put a space before you type, and then new HS, colon. And then we want to look for the is new variable. Okay, I'll take a second to look at that print statement. We want to add that. All right, we're at the last part. So we can go ahead and delete our process function because we're not calling anything every frame. And let's go inside of our on menu button. We're just going to add a couple debugs and a few functions. Okay, so in our on menu button pressed, we want to add print. Okay, and we're going to put our string in. We're going to say brackets n, so we know what scene it is, and this one is just going to say back to menu. Okay, let's just copy this 3 times so that we don't have to write the whole statement over. So go inside of your restart, go inside of your reset. And on your restart, we're going to say n, and we're going to change everything after n to restart, run, little arrow here, level 1. And then for our final print statement, it should say reset high score pressed. Okay. Now what we want to do is go back inside of our menu function, and we're just going to add get tree. So get underscore tree. We want to use that function. Dot change scene to file. Okay, and inside of that, we're just going to use our variable that we set up. Menu scene path. Go inside of your restart button function, and we're going to say game manager dot reset. So we want to use this reset run function that we have. And then we're going to use this get tree again, get tree function dot change scene to file. And then let's use the restart scene path property. And then in our reset button, this is the final thing we have to add. We're going to add game manager dot reset high score. And then if has no, we're looking for our high label, center container panel high label, colon. Okay. Let's bring in the variable for our high label. I'm gonna bring in the node. Set it, make sure it's as a label. And then we're gonna add hl.text equals best colon dash inside of the string, and then hl.visible equals true. Okay, so check your functions. Make sure everything is set up correctly. Check your spelling with rest and reset. Okay, for connecting your buttons. But once you have all of that, you should have a heads up display that works. Make sure you save. Okay, and then to test this, what you're gonna do is we're gonna take our HUD scene, and so let's go to level 1 here. then node it to level 1. Let's go ahead and add a UI layer. And so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to add a canvas layer. So this is going to like pop a layer on top of everything going on. So we're going to create a canvas layer that's noded to our level. Let's drag it all the way up top, so it's on the top of the tree. We're going to call it UI layer. Okay. And then inside of that, we are going to add our HUD scene. Okay, so we can take our, and even if you had it on 2D, so if we're going to take our HUD and